Leak recognition, Senator Kennedy. Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Miss Russell sent a letter to the governor of Connecticut. The pandemic cheers. What she said, quotas, they stand prisons and jails are detrimental to public health and human rights, and disproportionately harm marginalized, non, black, brown, indigenous, and other communities of color, immigrantly, with mental illness, people with disabilities, bill in the LGBTQ plus community, people who use drugs, people engaged in sex work and street economists, people experiencing housing houselessness, poverty. Then she went on to request the governor to immediately release everybody in jail in Connecticut. It's unclear to me whether she was talking about just during the pandemic or on a permanent basis. She goes on to tell the governor of Connecticut to stop putting people in jail. And it's still unclear to me whether she meant just for the duration of the pandemic or on an extended basis. And on top of all of that, cherry on top, she didn't turn the letter over to the committee. Don't know why she didn't. Perhaps she thought, I'm not saying this is the case, she thought we wouldn't find it. It took about 3 minutes on Google to find it. No, this is America. Miss Russell has a constitutional right to believe in these things, and to say those things. She does not have a constitutional right to a federal judge, and she's not qualified to be a federal judge. If those are her beliefs, how can any criminal defendant in front of her or any prosecutor in front of her think that they're getting a shake in light of this letter when she sentences Sumianet to prison, if she ever does sentences me to prison? It's just simply breathtaking. For that reason, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to be voting Nerden Senator Sherman. My name was invoked. Can I respond? Just quickly, Senator Kennedy. Appreciate Senator Ball's comments. But Richard, here's how I see it. She got caught. She had an epiphaniance. She got caught and I am looking at her qualifications, and I am looking at the record, and I don't know that she didn't felt right this letter. I know she signed it. I know she tried to hide it from this committee. So even if you disagree, even if you agree with her that we should stop theft, actions have no consequence, and that nobody's ever responsible, and it's always somebody else's fault. And when a criminal sodomizes a young girl, and everybody ought to get a trophy. I mean, I wish we lived in a world like that, but that's what she believes, and you know it, and I know it. And Shehas recanted after she got caught. Ange got caught because she shouldn't turn it over to us. For God's sake, Senator, we had to find it on our own shame, on her, and every single time when she has got to, on the federal bench, has got to sentence a criminal defendant. This is going to be grounds for appeal. For God's sakes, have we? Does the rule of law mean nothing for a question? Certainly I do, Senator, and I apologize for not you were. Recognize the Senator. Corin, thank you for yielding for the questiones. The Senator from Louisiana, familiar with a concept called confirmation. Conversion kind of like a death. I would like to hear more about it. Senator, well, I'd just be interested. How can you reconcile letter with what Senator Blumenthal, the senator from Connecticut, read as her disavowal of the letter? Did she express regret that she had misspoken, or that Sheno on second thought had differentiatism? I'm trying to get my head around how do you reconcile this letter that you read from the statement that the senator from Connecticut, well, he said, Senator, here's how I reconcile it. 3 words, she got caught, and we found the letter, and she didn't turn it over, and during committee, instead of saying, yeah, I signed the letter and shouldn't have done it, I don't believe it. She said she wasn't sure, and then she was sure, and then she didn't mean it, and then she'll make a pinky promise that she'll be a fair federal judge at these positions are for life thereafter, forever at a minimum just because you've seen my cousin. Vinny doesn't qualify you to be on the federal bench at a minimum. There will be a minimum level of integrity and a minimum level of adherence to the rule of law, and this lady sets a new standard, and I wish you didn't have to say that buttholes are the facts with the senatorial. For one last question, of course here, you familiar with the fact that all federal judges are subject to a code of judicial conduct? Yes sir, that would bore federal judges, correct? Yes sir, including members of the United States Supreme Court. Yes Siren, is a senator aware of the fact that that code of judicial conduct that applies to all federal judges was actually promulgated in 1919? Yes sir. I understand that's the case, and I am trying to reconcile the chairman's that this code of judicial conduct that applies to the Supreme Court, specifically that was issued on November the 13th, that was the first time that members of the Supreme Court were subject to a code of judicial conductors, and it fact that the code of judicial conduct that applied to all federal judges applied to them as well. Yes Ireland, one of those how can a litigant, a citizen accused of a crime, somebody who goes to court to seek vindication for a wrong done to them, how can they have any confidence whatsoever? A judge of it won't tell the truth, he can't, and shame on us for allowing simony like that to get on the federal bano. We've talked a little bit about judicial independence here. I think I agree with those people over time, over the last 230 years or so, who've said that the independence of the judiciary in the United States is a stickle most distinguished feature of our form of government, because ultimately people are going to be held accountably, and not for political reasons, not because of their unpopular point of view, but because a judge in some court, perhaps with an appeal to an intermediate court, and maybe the Supreme Court has said you were wrong and the other side was right. But we also said that these judges should be independent of politics. That's why they get lifetime appointments. That's why the Constitution says their salary cannot be diminished while they serve in office. So what recursos, a litigant, a citizen accused of a crime, the prosecutor who's representing the state, or perhaps the United States waiter course, do they have against somebody was confirmed as a federal judge? How and tell the truth? It's a mystery to me, and we're creating a real problem here, in my opinion, Senator, and a real problem for the efficient operation of her court. I mean, if I'm a criminal defendant to our criminal defense attorney, I'm going to do everything I can to try target this lady as my judge, and if I'm at prosecutorium, going to try to avoid her, and I think this letter may very well be grounds for appeal in every single solitary case. I mean, she says it here biggest Dallas, I don't believe in putting people in jail if they're part of this particular group that she deems virtuous. No, if you're not in her group of people that she deems underprivileged and virtuous, you're really a trisk apparently. But if you can fit yourself in toif, you can somehow become black, brown, indigenous and immigrant, people with mental illness, people with disabilities, people in Thelgech plus community people who use drugs. If you can convince the judge that you have been engaged in sex work, in street economies, or you are homeless or poor, then she thinks you should not be in jail. I've heard it said that the single most powerful public official in the United States is an individual federal judge. Have you heard that? Yes sir. I think that's, and what recourse does Congress have to a federal judge wobblet disregards their obligations under the law? We have the authority to force them to recuse or disqualify them. Isn't it fact that given the constitutional independence of the judiciary, the celerior course that Congress has, I'm not talking about the litigant that Congress would have, would be to impeach, for the House to impeach, and the Senate to convict them in a court of impeachment. Is that right? That is correct, and that's why I've always been so proud to sit on this committee, because our job is to stop people from getting on the bench who are whack jobs, and that same limitation of remedy that Congress would have would also apply to United States Supreme Court justice. Correct? Yes sir. Impeachment, the House conviction in the Senate, removal from office, that's the celerior remedy. Correct? Yes.